Hey, welcome to Our Defining Moments. I'm your host, Mary McClements. In this podcast, I talk with people about the split-second moments in their lives that sent them in directions that they never expected. From the woods of Vermont to the streets of San Francisco to the Camino de Santiago in Spain, you may be astonished by the chain reactions these moments have had not only for my guests, but for those around them. Hey, my guest today, so good. My guest was a high school dropout at 16, a college graduate at 20, and a single mom at 30. She has been a cook for a Baroque orchestra, a sculptor's assistant, an SEO, in quotes, expert, and a yoga teacher. She started and stopped 3 years later her own welding shop where she had repaired farm equipment under the blazing sun on the 4th of July and decorated cakes baked to resemble the Palace of Versailles on Bastille Day. I just love that. Only a talented writer could write such a beautiful and visually descriptive verse about themselves. And my guest today, the author of Spirit Traffic, A Mother's Journey of Self-Discovery and Letting Go, which even reading that makes me tear up a little bit, is the one and only C. Jane Taylor. And I am so excited to be with you today.
Woohoo! I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, it is my pleasure. And I stole that from your website. I just love it so much. You're kind of the about Jane. And there's so much more, but that just really grabbed me. So super excited that we get this chance to talk. Yeah. So can we talk about welding?
Sure. It's been a while.
There. Tell me how you got into that.
There was a women's trades training program in Burlington started by Bernie Sanders.
Oh,
and it was called Step Up for Women. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was sort of between jobs and actually left a relationship. And I was driving down the road and I saw a blue light in someone's garage. And I thought, they're welding in there.
Yeah, right.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I enrolled in this women's trades training program. My son was 3 years old, I think, at the time. Uh-huh. And I learned how to weld. I became the welder for Kate Pond, who is a sculptor in Burlington, Vermont. Yeah. Uh-huh. And then I started my own shop called Jane and Tom's Welding. Tom was my yellow lab. He kept the books. Tom. Yeah, he kept the books, which is why we went under.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, I have done some welding, but I was never very good at it. Like, as in, my shit fell apart. So It's okay. I'll get back to it one day. But before you started your welding shop, I mean, were you scared to do that? Did you have contacts? Did you know who to reach out to for welding projects? Like, how did that all work?
I knew there was a blacksmith in Pine Street in Burlington, which is this, for people who aren't Vermonters, Pine Street is this artsy kind of post-industrial neighborhood. And there was a blacksmith who had a shop there, and I introduced myself to him.
Nice.
And saying, I want to be you when I grow up, which was really funny. We're still close friends. This was 30 years ago, I guess. No, 20 years ago. I'm younger than that. So he gave me a list of things to learn how to do. I did all those things. Then I came back in a year and he said, oh, shit. And then he invited me to do a few projects with him, which was great. And then I knew an artist who needed piecework essentially done. So I started doing metalwork for this artist in northern Vermont. So in the end, I did brass brazing, which is brass on steel, and they're ferrous and non-ferrous metals, so it's a little tricky. I brazed hundreds and hundreds of dancing rabbi menorahs. Happy Hanukkah. Yeah.
Really? I have a good friend who has a dancing rabbi menorah, and I wonder if you made it. Oh my God.
It could be me.
So I'm going to have her send a picture of it to me and I'll send it to you and you can tell me.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So I drove up to Hardwick, Vermont and cut the steel and then brought it back to my shop and brazed it there. So I haven't thought about the dancing rabbi menorahs in quite some time, but there it is.
I think there's some significance there. I don't know what it is yet, but I don't know. I think there's some
Hanukkah's coming up, so maybe it's time to light some candles.
Yeah. I don't know. How often do rabbis dance? I don't know. I don't know any rabbis. Maybe some, a lot.
I think they dance for festive occasions. I think dancing is part of the deal.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. So welding to cakes. These two mediums are a little different from each other. What do they have in common?
What do they have in common? It's a great question. I think the cake was first, actually. And I was working with this chef named Shippen Liebzelter, who was the chef for an orchestra called Aston Magna. And he was an amazing artist. And I was his assistant. So I was making these cakes or making like a lasagna shaped like, he just did this marvelous, outrageous food sculpture. And I worked with him. And welding, it's basically making things into different shapes. So I think it's a structural similarity, perhaps.
Nice. I love that you have all these artists in your background. As you're saying this, I'm like, wow, she is not a person that says, I can't very much. Is that true?
Yeah, I do say it sometimes, which is, I think, why I'm here today. Perhaps.
Yeah. I think it's just, I love that. It's like fluidity, it's adaptability. It's lots of different skills. It's not just, I feel like a lot of people have a lot of different strengths and skills, but not as many people have the confidence or the gumption or the, I don't know, maybe they're a little bananas to be like, I'm going to do this. I like this. I'm going to do it. It's great. I love it.
Well, one of my strengths is learner. So I naturally want to learn things. So I'm out there looking for stuff to learn. So stay hungry, stay curious. That's what I'm about.
And what's your doer strength? Like, what is it that makes you say, I'm going to jump into this and I'm going to do it. I'm going to practice for a year and I'm going to make dancing rabbi menorahs and I'm going to get better. And
positivity.
Yes, we love the positivity. Yeah. We could talk about Clifton's strengths for a long, long time, but we're not here today to talk about Clifton's strengths. So I met you a couple of years ago and pretty much right away, I felt that you are the epitome of a badass Mamba Jamba. And I actually looked up in the Urban Dictionary what Mamba Jamba meant, and it means badass. So I feel like I'm using that appropriately.
Nice.
I want to talk about motorcycles because you wrote this book called Spirit Traffic, and subtitle is A Mother's Journey of Self-Discovery and Letting Go. But let's go back in time. I know that you have a passion for bikes, and I know that it was in your history. And I would love to hear the story about kind of where it all started.
Sure. When I was a little kid, my mother had a motorcycle shop, and the mechanics at her shop, it was called Honda of Ann Arbor, were my babysitters. They were these sort of scary looking, tattooed, scar-faced kind of rebels, but I thought of them as babysitters.
And were they babysitters because you were in the shop, or did they come to your house and babysit you?
Both. Yeah. So motorcycles were part of my childhood when I was about 4, 5, 6 years old, 7 years old. And then when I was, I think, starting 3rd or 4th grade, Mom sold the motorcycle shop, and I didn't ride again until I was 50 years old.
So you were riding when you were 3, 4, 5, 6 on the back of your mom's motorcycle or someone's motorcycle?
Yes, on the back. Yeah. We would ride. This is early 70s before there were laws.
Any laws?
No, there weren't any laws. The lawless early 70s. My mother would ride with my sister and I on the bike, so 3 up on the motorcycle, which, there was a rule. You had to grasp your hands around Mom's waist and not let go. Because there aren't any seat belts, of course.
Right.
So
even in the cars.
That's right. It's before laws. So we would ride. That's how we got around when I was pretty little. My mother went back to the university after my sister and I were born. And a couple of years ago, I learned that mom, when I was 3, mom took me with her to school. And I was like the mascot for her university classes. She put me in the corner with a big pad of paper and crayons. I'd just sit in these university classes getting passed around from kid to kid, student to student.
Yeah.
So that was I don't remember that, but mom told me about that a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I wonder if you would remember if it was an iPhone instead of a pad of paper. So your mom sold her motorcycle shop around the age 7. And you said that you didn't ride a motorcycle again until you were 50. Well, how? What? Tell me.
Okay. Well, Emmett, my son, when he was in high school, he was pretty fascinated with motorcycles. I think as many teenage boys are and teenage girls. Mm-hmm. And when he graduated from college, the year before he graduated from college, my husband, John, said, let's buy motorcycles and do a big trip with Emmett as a graduation present. So we bought 3 used BMWs and learned how to ride them, sort of, and then went on this big 10,000-mile trip. It was the first trip we took on bikes.
10,000 miles. Oh, my God.
It was crazy.
Just jump right in.
Yeah. So this is what Spirit Traffic is about, that trip.
Yeah. Amazing. That's amazing to me. So I used to ride motorcycles. I had 2 at one point. And the thing that was so scary for me was, this was in Colorado when I lived there. The thing that was so scary for me was driving through town, because there's a lot of traffic in Boulder, Colorado, more so now. Driving through town to get to more of the open roads, not necessarily highways, but like the open roads that, let's say, lead up to Rocky Mountain National Park. But I was just gripped, like probably gripping my handlebars, just so ultra aware and gripping so much that it was not good to grip too hard. And I'm curious what fears you might have had when you first started riding motorcycles at 50.
My driveway. It's the scariest driveway in all the land.
I know your driveway.
Yes. Well, it's steep and it's dirt. And in the spring, after snow plows and rain and snow have cascaded down this driveway, it's a mess. So it's got divots and gullies, and it is tricky even in a car.
Yeah.
So learning how to ride the motorcycle, I had to go down my driveway to get out into the world. Took me a long time to get over that fear because, I didn't want to die. It's like fear is
biology is kicking in.
That's right. That saber-toothed tiger is going to get me.
Yeah.
So for maybe a month or something like that, I would get John or Emmett to ride my bike down the driveway. And once I was on the macadam on the highway, I would ride from there. But it's like, I can't do it. So when you said earlier, I can't isn't part of my vocabulary. I can't was something that I said about the driveway.
So you go on this 10,000-mile trip, you write a book about this, and this is kind of leading to the defining moment you mentioned already, but I want to hear more about your defining moment that changed everything for you, that had an impact on other people around you. We'll get to that. I want more detail about that defining moment.
Well, the getting down the driveway for the first time is the defining moment. It's sort of like, walking through the wardrobe in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I was in a new world after I got down the driveway because I could go anywhere. And I'd look back at the driveway and it's like, if I can do that, I'll probably be able to do other things. So going down that driveway made it possible, I think, for me to take the big trip and then also to write a book, because I've been a writer of sorts my whole life, but I've never thought I had what it takes to write a book, write and publish a book, which is a huge and daunting project. But I did it. I could get down the driveway. So what the hell? I can write a book. I also did a book tour after my book was published in April. I did a national book tour on the motorcycle. I went from Vermont to Maine, up to Montreal, Toronto, Detroit, Chicago, Tucson, Denver.
Mamba Jamba.
Yeah, Mama Jama.
That's incredible. And so going down that driveway. So for people who have never ridden a motorcycle, right? When you're going downhill, if it's a steep hill, you feel like you're going to go over the handlebars. And if you're nervous and you brake too quick, you may go over the handlebars. And so, describe more about like the specifics of going and driveways, right? Like anything steep that's dirt in Vermont really gets destroyed. And we're talking like, deep gullies. My road, which is dirt and steep, has to be graded at least 2 or 3 times every spring and summer because the divots are just so deep. So I want to hear a little bit more.
Well, I did, when I was practicing, I bought this motorcycle used and we trailered it home in the winter. And then in the spring, I practiced in the parking lot in front of my condo where I live. I did go over the handlebars.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So I knew what I was afraid of when I was going down the driveway. It's like, going over the handlebars in my dirt parking lot is bad enough, but going over the handlebars with some momentum, then there's the possibility that the bike will flip onto, it's just I don't even want to go there.
I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go there.
Okay. Go.
Because at the end of your driveway, if this wasn't pointed out, is a busy road.
Yeah.
And it's
by
a straightaway.
Standards. It's a busy road. And so
it's a straightaway. People go fast. There's no flat spot between the end of your driveway and the beginning of the road. So there's like no grace. There's no ability to screw up. Yeah, I get nervous. I'm like playing with a little cord on my mic right now because it makes me so nervous. Okay, so you have this defining moment. Amazing. And I don't know, is it perspective? Something shifted. Like it was confidence. Was it perspective? What was it? Like, okay, I can make it down the driveway. I can do anything. That's a pretty big leap. I made it down the driveway. I can go ride 10,000 miles. I'd ride it, but yes.
Thinking about it, I'll bet there's some neurological answer for how this happened or why this happened. But my self-perspective changed because I was able to accomplish this thing that I was afraid of, that I didn't think I could do. And, I really had to dig to be able to do it, to get down the driveway. I really had to. I can think of a number of times sitting on my bike, and I'm just looking at the top of the driveway right now. It's like, sitting at the top of my driveway on my bike, trying to get up the nerve to go down and just turning off the bike and getting off and crying.
I feel that. Oh my God, I would do the same thing. Yeah.
I think that fear is important and fear teaches us things. And it's important to respect fear because analyzing a fear is like, is this an imminent danger or is this anxiety, which is a perception or an imagined fear? And I think in my case, it was both. But then when I finally learned how to ride and I could stay upright and I knew how to use the front brake and the rear brake and how to shift and things like that, the fear was less of an imminent danger and maybe more anxiety. So understanding that opened a lot of doors because now I looked at writing and publishing a book. I was afraid to do it. And it's like, why am I afraid to do it? There's no imminent danger. I'm not going to get hurt.
But like our brains don't know the difference between the real saber-toothed tiger and the saber-toothed tiger that we've made up in our brain. We're going to take a short break now to hear from our sponsor, Take Passage Coaching. This is still Mary, and I happen to be the owner and lead coach of Take Passage Coaching, and I'm thrilled I asked myself to be my own sponsor. Seriously though, Take Passage Coaching is a trauma-informed transformational coaching practice that supports people who are ready to move from uncertainty and doubt to the ability to clarify what they expect from themselves. At Take Passage Coaching, I work with clients to help them look at their negative thoughts not as the messy parts of themselves to stuff away, but how to use those thoughts as fuel. I know you've probably heard all of the promises before, and you may have been working on your stuff for ages with not much progress. But one reason why Take Passage Coaching is different is that I celebrate all of your messy parts, the parts you're embarrassed about, the things you may consider weaknesses, and I help you to see them that they are all gifts and they are all strengths. So whether you're someone who has experienced trauma, and if you're human, you have, or are ready to do the scary things in life that you've been telling yourself you can't, Take Passage Coaching is ready to help you with the transition and change that you want. So go ahead and reach out to takepassagecoaching.com to book a free exploratory session and take good care. You've touched on so many points that within, my coaching, whether it's trauma coaching or career coaching, one, it's practice. You have to do these things that really scare the shit out of you over and over and over again. And for somebody who has experienced trauma, when there's a trigger, it absolutely feels like it's going back to the moment of when the harm happened. And so,
sure.
Yeah, it's fascinating, the power of our brains in convincing us, right, that I'm in danger. Mm-hmm. And motorcycle riding, you are in danger. Going down that driveway. Sure. Going down that driveway, you were in danger, but probably not life or death danger. I don't know.
Probably not.
Felt like
probably
it,
not.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
I was going to say repetition is key, because going over the driveway again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
Is,
and are you still nervous going down the driveway?
Well, sometimes if I'm tired and I'm at the top of the driveway, I'm like, oh boy, okay, I better pay attention.
Yeah.
So
paying attention. Yeah. So I want to hear, or I'd love for you to share. I've read your book and
thank you.
I loved it. And as you know, I would love for you to share a little bit about, and really anything you want, the process, the ride, some scenes in your book. You get to choose.
Since we're talking about fear, I'll recount one of the chapters that had to do with fear. We were riding in Monument Valley in Utah, which is just beautiful. There are these curves and there's no curb. There's no shoulder on this road. So it's like you're on the highway or you're on the desert. So going through these curves was really scary for me. And we were being tailgated by a tour bus.
Oh, dear.
So the combination turned into a big kerfuffle and one of the few arguments we had on this 10,000 mile trip as a family. And on the book tour, 5 years later, John and I, Emmett didn't come with us on the book tour. He has his own life now. We rode through Monument Valley again. And I thought, okay, I can't wait to see those curves. I'll be great on them. I'm going to be strong and I'm not going to be afraid. And okay, wait till I get to those curves. I'm ready.
So roll those curves.
That's right. Riding all the way through Monument Valley, we get to the other side and we're almost in Tuba City. And I didn't see any of those curves. Either they straightened the road out since I was there last, or they're not as scary to me anymore.
Amazing.
So that was really funny. It's like, but I was so afraid and it was real.
Yeah.
Not very curvy. That right.
What's that expression? Fear is a liar.
Oh, I don't know that one. Yeah.
Fear is a liar. It's something that we create. I think there's more to that quote. I'll have to look it up, but I like the beginning of it. I just like the simple fear is a liar, and fear serves us really well, right? Yeah. It's really good to have some fear on a motorcycle.
Definitely.
So, as you were talking about this trip, you paused for a second and you said, Emmett didn't go on the book tour with us. Pause. He has his own life now.
Yeah.
Part of your book is about letting go. Was that part of the letting go?
Oh, that was the total letting go.
Yeah.
And Emmett reminds me periodically that I failed in that attempt.
Practice.
Exactly. But at the end of Spirit Traffic, at the end of this 10,000 mile trip we took as a family, Emmett rides off into the sunrise, actually, and rides off into his own life. He's a college graduate. He's moving in with his girlfriend, and he has a totally new life that is separate from me. So having to, I guess this is another fear. It's just like getting down the driveway. It's like, okay, my son is an adult. He's almost 30. I don't know how that happened, but I've had to figure out who I am on my own, not as a mom, but just as a woman, as an author, as a writer. And so I've decided that I'm an empty nest action figure.
Wait. What does that look like? What are you wearing? What's the action figure wearing?
I definitely have a cape and tights, like Wonder Woman tights, or maybe I'm wearing my armored motorcycle gear. But the thing about the empty nest action figure is that I'm doing things that make me feel proud of myself. And it feels good. And, it's like, okay, I'm challenging myself a little bit to find fulfillment.
Oh my God. I love that. And I feel like from this point forward, every time that I have to do something scary and I do it, I'm going to call it, I needed to go down the dirt driveway. I need it or something like that. Like, oh my gosh, I just went down the dirt driveway on a motorcycle.
On public radio, they have the driveway moments. Yes. This is a totally different driveway moment.
So good.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So going back to your defining moment, going down that driveway, writing this book, which led to writing this book, how do you think it impacted others close to you? How did it ripple out?
Well, it's funny. When I finished my manuscript, I gave it to Emmett and he read it and he said, wow, that's what was happening.
Oh,
so it's funny. There were some things that he wasn't aware of that I picked up on. I'm sure there are things that he was aware of that I didn't pick up on. But it brought my family closer together. And also, well, I'm an action figure now. So I have these things I do. For example, last week, I gave a workshop to the Women Business Owners Network called Cultivating Confidence.
Yeah.
And it's the driveway all over again. I went to an annual conference and they had a sign-up sheet. And I'm trying to promote my book, so I signed up. And the topic, they said, write your name, your email address, and the topic you want to present on. And I wrote my name and my email address, and then I saw the blank that said topic, and I said, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Confidence. So I wrote down confidence because it took a lot of confidence for me to write my name on that clipboard.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I did this workshop last week, and it was fabulous.
Oh.
And people in attendance are referring me to other organizations, and it was really successful and made a difference in the lives of the women in the room. So I gave them writing prompts, and I gave them difficult writing prompts. And I asked difficult questions, which is what I do for myself. So,
do you have an example of one of the questions? You remember them?
Sure.
This might be good for our listeners.
The first thing I did was, I read from my book, which was really fun because it gives really explicit examples of overcoming fear and finding confidence that you might not think you have. So the first writing prompt was write down a dream or goal that you have. And then the second question was, what is getting in the way of your fulfillment of this dream? And each writing prompt, I only gave them 1 or 2 minutes. So it was like, write it down. What is it? What is it? What is it? Dig. And then after writing about what it is that's getting in the way of your fulfillment of this dream, I asked them to write about the steps they can take before the end of the year.
Oh, good. Nice.
To start to move closer to their dream goal. And there were other questions too. And then I asked them to pair up with someone they don't know and tell them their dream, tell them their barriers, tell them their steps, and trade email addresses so you can be accountability buddies. Yeah. So it was great. I was really proud of myself. And I got a great response and new friends and new confidence. It was really wonderful.
That's great. I love it. I feel like your book and your experiences have brought enormous gifts to the world. It's
thank you.
I think I might have mentioned this in another podcast. I can't remember, but Buddhist monks meditate because they believe that it will bring world peace. So if they are of a mindset and of a place of peace, that's going to ripple out. And the next person they encounter, it's going to ripple out to them, and then it's going to ripple out to them. And I feel as though not just your workshop, but your book and your adventures, it really prompted me to do a motorcycle safety class with my son, which we haven't done yet, but it's on the books. Yeah. And to do so many other things, the scary things. So I'm just so thankful and impressed about what you've done and the fact that you are not I can't do that. And when you were, you conquered it anyway. You did it anyway.
Thank you. You don't have to be Glennon Doyle to do the scary things.
I love that. I have yet to listen to that podcast. I really should.
Yeah, we can do hard things. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
And it's true. We can.
Yeah. Do you have any parting words or any advice or any inspirational quotes or a joke you want to say before we sign off?
I'd like to tell a joke, but I can't think of one.
I hate when that happens.
Instead, I would say that you already are a hero. You already have all the traits, characteristics of heroism. You just need to take a minute and look, and you'll see them. You can do it. You can totally do it. You can drive down the driveway. You can write a book. You can apply for a new job. You can buy a giant Airstream and turn it into an Airbnb. You can do all the things. And it doesn't matter if you're 50 or 60 or 70. It's not too late. You can do the stuff.
Coming from the woman who does the stuff. You do the stuff.
Woohoo! Doing the stuff.
Oh my gosh. So I am in love with you even more.
Oh, likewise. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm so appreciative that you took the time out of your schedule. And one last question. What's next?
I am writing articles for magazines.
Nice.
I'm writing another book.
Wait, what? You're writing another book?
I'm writing another book. This book, my working title is Riding the Line.
Oh.
And it's about divisiveness and unity. And the thing I noticed having to do with this motorcycle book tour was that in the Bible Belt or in different parts of the country where people had giant flags that said F-U-C-K Biden, at the end of their driveway, things that I wasn't happy seeing a flag like that. But getting beyond the flag, people were marvelous. To a person, people were generous, caring, thoughtful, all the way down the line. Everyone I encountered treated me with respect and dignity and care. So
that gives me such hope.
So Riding the Line is a book about hope for sure.
I love it. Wow. Yeah. Wow. C. Jane Taylor. I always call you C. Jane Taylor.
That's nice. I like it.
C. Jane Taylor, thank you for bringing your badass Mamba Jamba self and your action figure to this interview today. What's the website of your book so people can go and buy it?
Oh, that would be great. It makes an excellent gift. cjanetaylor.com. It's the letter C.
cjanetaylor.com. See the letter, janetaylor.com. Right on. Well, thank you. I'm honored to be in your presence as always. And thank you for taking this time and just doing the hard things in life.
Thank you. Really great to be here.
Talk to you soon. This has been Our Defining Moments with Mary McClements. I'm back next week with more stories of moments in time that changed someone's life forever. Please rate and review the show and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you have a defining moment and want to share, head over to the Our Defining Moment website at ourdefiningmoments.com and click on Share a Moment. I'm always interested in people's stories, and I may feature you on the podcast.